Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is December the 15th. Can we believe it that it's almost mid-December? Everybody must be getting ready for Christmas, holidays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all kinds of holiday. It's holiday season is upon us. And amazingly so, as holiday season is upon us, we have our most precious Eileen back on the panel. So she's going to keep us streamlined. She does an incredible job of keeping us streamlined. She also offers mindfulness meditation. So please check out the post from Eileen. I think Ken wished you into existence, Arlene, because he was talking about you a lot in the last Facebook Live Q&A. So he must have spoken you into existence.
He sparked that last wave of healing.
And then we're joined by April, who is a psychic. She's done quite a few modalities of healing, as well as she's a spiritual teacher, a regular panel member. Good evening, April. And then we are joined by Ken, who is a fellow member and one of the core group meditators and has been on the panel regularly. Good evening, Ken. And then we are joined by Patricia, who also has started joining us on the panel on a regular basis. Good evening, Patricia. And then I see Vidya and John on joined online, but they're not on video. So welcome, Vidya, and welcome, John. I didn't really have a question today. One of the things that I remember last time that you were talking to Patricia, April, you were talking about, we talked about, and especially during the November workshop, you talked about how the heart has as many nerves, neurons as the brain, or is much more larger than the brain itself. So yeah, we should be paying attention to our heart. But one of the things you were telling Patricia is trust your gut, right? So one of the things that medical medium always says is your gut has gazillion neurons, right? And Patricia kept bringing up that I was laughing too much last week. And I realized what happened last week was, one, I had been doing the cleanse a lot. Like I had done enough. I think I did repeatedly like 32 ounces of celery juice over and over again. And then that day was the day that I had like spinach soup. So I had like my body was I was very lighthearted on last Wednesday, right? So you want to speak about the gut? And I see Caesar is joined. Chief Caesar is our channel here. So the question I wanted to ask is how important is it that we have a gut that's clean and that we be able to listen to the neurons that are in our gut to grab that emotional field, which, Abraham Hicks says you're either on the top half of the emotional scale, or you're trending negative and at the bottom half, and then you're going spiraling down, right? The bottom half. So if I want to be on the top 1, 2, where I'm one with source, where I'm joyful in enthusiasm and gratitude, how much does the gut help? Thank you.
It's an interesting question, and what I do know is that I have also heard that there's countless, I'm not sure on the exact number of neurons in the stomach and in the gut, and that the center of our health resides in the stomach. Your health resides there. And so I watched this video the other day of the human cells and what is actually happening in the human cells. It was quite fascinating. Because we always talk about tell your cells what to do. You can direct your cells and what to do. You can control your health. You can control. And there's a lot of, I've heard numerous stories about healers who, there was one story when I did the Amadeus energy healing training. She had a story about how the original teacher that she knew was on a trip on a plane, and there is a symbol that we can use in that energy healing to bless the food, and he used that symbol and he didn't get sick, but everybody else on the plane got sick from the food that was given, right? So I just thought it was like very interesting when I watched this movie about how we talk about the cells all the time and how we can command them. And it was really unbelievable that each and every single cell in the body is vibrating at a certain frequency. But to watch it, it was mind-blowing. Like everything was just vibrating and connecting and binding, and it was so phenomenal. And when I watched that, I thought, and they were talking about how everything is a vibration and needs to vibrate correctly. And then the binding needs to happen in the right order, in the right way. And it really kind of hit me. If you can just see all these thousands of chemical reactions vibrating and moving and binding and releasing, it is super important that we are vibrating at the right frequency. And if you are thinking negative, that, how many times have you heard or said or seen something and like, oh, I'm nauseous now, I'm just sick to my stomach, right? You had this thought, it created emotion, now I'm sick to my stomach, right? And also, and I thought, I think up until this point, like I see now, I almost called him his wrong name, Anthony, like medical medium. I've renamed him. So I caught myself there. We hear about how important our food is. But when I watched this video, I thought, these cells are really trying to do their best at their job at binding and releasing and grabbing the right protein and creating new DNA and RNA. And it is really vital that we put healthy stuff into our body to help the body. But then how dynamic, how phenomenal is the body that we put all this garbage in and it still functions? Now, it doesn't function at top, right? But because I know, Poonam, you've said several times, the more that you've changed your diet, the lighter you feel, right? And that's for me, like when I quit smoking, people asked me, did you gain weight? And I said, no, I didn't gain weight. But for me, I don't like that heavy feeling. And I think it's because I'm in this, spiritual, it feels very heavy to me. So for me, with this question, I do think that the gut is vitally important. I do think that it does affect our health. I think that our emotions, our thoughts are directly connected with our stomach. I also think that it is a place of, because it is so central to the body, I do think it is a place, we do get intuition from there, because every part of the body, they say that there's a brain in the stomach as well, not just in the heart, but in the stomach as well. So I think it is another place where we have kind of like a brain that takes in information from the environment and is then sent up to the brain, right? So this is my opinion, but I really realized, if you want, Poonam, I can try to find the video that I watched and I can send it to you. You can see what I'm talking about, and then you can decide if you want to share it out if people want to see. But when I watched this, I just realized how important it is to really be mindful of our body. And it's not like I didn't know that, but it put it in a new perspective. And to be really mindful of what's in our stomach and the food that we're putting in. It has the biggest job of trying to feed this whole thing, this whole, mechanism. So I think it's vitally important. And yes, I do think that we're all connected. And I believe that the more that you take care of your body, then the more you can be, it's not an absolute requirement, but the more you can be connected with source. Right.
Thank you so much, April. I know there was a time that Dr. Deepak Chopra said, cancer cells are cancerous because the cells forget to die. And that's when they start to multiply, right? And so that's the intelligence that each cell kind of knows what its duty is. Like the heart cells know that it needs to make the heart organ, going back to what you were saying, how they vibrate, right? A heart cell makes a heart cell, a liver cell makes a liver cell. When they multiply, they forget to die, cleanse themselves, then that's when we have issues like cancer, right? So that's why impermanence of form, the more we learn impermanence of form and know of the impermanence of form at the very core of our being, the more we have immunity against all these autoimmune conditions, because that's what teaches us that the cells die eventually. So thank you. Eileen, since you've been away for such a long time, did you want to say something from your mindfulness teachings? What was the practice?
Well, I know that your original question was about the gut. And I feel like April said any point that I would have been trying to make. I was like, yep, that too. But I wanted to repeat something that she said because I've talked about this before. And although it might not be directly related to the gut, it's related to kind of being that mindfulness of the whole body. But it's really important. And I want to make sure that people didn't miss it. So our thoughts are what create emotions. And then those emotions are what create, the physical sensations and physical responses in the body, which then we take those and create additional thoughts and stories, which then, keeps the whole thing moving in that horrible direction. But I think what happens is a lot of humans think that the physical sensation is what starts all of that process, and it's not. It's, those thoughts, and it just keeps that going, and it feeds the emotion, and then those emotions create things. So those thoughts are creating things. The other thing that you mentioned, Poonam, was about our cells. And one of the affirmations that I do is that my cells are healing my body, and cells are capable. That's what they do. That's their job. They're capable of caring for and healing themselves. But in that process of healing itself or ridding itself, if it's, at that point, it takes care of the body. So those are just two things that I wanted to highlight. But
you mean about the cleansing process?
Yeah, but not just the cleansing process, but cells actually care for themselves. Whether it's the end of their time and not, ridding itself, not just that, but the whole process. Cells are capable of healing themselves. They're capable of caring for themselves. And that process of each individual cell caring for itself cares for the whole physical form.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ken, did you want to say something about this?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much. This is a really important topic, following your intuition. And more, the intuition actually has a communication that I'm learning more and more that affects my emotions. It affects my thinking. It affects my feelings. And more I can see how interconnected it is to my body, my mind, and different things. It's almost like my natural instincts it's like information becomes more clear as I learn more. And then realizing, like, being in alignment to the different fields or energies, the vibrations, that there's actually downloading of information that comes through. And when this first started happening to me, I'm like, what is going on? And so through prayer and meditation, it starts to almost explain how everything's interconnected and how it works. I can walk through the forest, and if I'm in silence and I feel really this gentle, loving feeling deep within, I'll look at the trees, and thoughts will come in. It isn't like the trees are talking to me, but there's actually information coming through the energy field of being in that natural state. And that, to me, is connected to my intuition. It's not coming through my mind. It's not coming through my thinking. And so it's coming through the awareness and the presence. And it's almost like, at first, when it first started happening, I'm like, I felt like I was chosen for this special understanding. And then I realized that, no, when I started to be around more like-minded people that were also in presence, then I could have these communications with them that understood. And then there would be expansion to my intuition, to my understanding. And it's incredible. And then I realized that there's a communication below the surface of my thinking. And that's what really helped me to realize that there was something much deeper or something much more within myself. And it's something April had said, that there's a memory or a mind in the stomach. And I so believe that 100%. And also with all the chakras, I feel like there's mind memory. You know what Eileen said, in the cells and everything. Like, I'm not a doctor. Can't really explain it, but it's almost like I can listen to other people talk about things and I go, I get it. I'm understanding it, because understanding that everything is interconnected. And it's almost like there's a similarity on how things work. I'm starting to realize that my own self is a mirror of the earth in so many ways, on how it works and how things are. I can be the weather. I'm like, oh my God, you know, we go through storms. People go through storms. It's a beautiful day. It's nice and quiet. And then all of a sudden things can shift. A thunderstorm, a lightning storm, the wind. And I'm like, I can actually see the reflection or mirroring what's going on inside of me, or listening to other people. And it's just being in that presence that allows that expansion to evolve. So it's I just love being in this presence power with everybody. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken. You know, it's amazing that you brought up this inner connection with each other, because this happened to us during group meditation, right? But not only did it happen during group meditation, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, right? April forgot that it was Q&A day, that it was Wednesday. And as she joined the Zoom session, she said, I think, Poonam, you were thinking about me because I almost forgot, right, April? Did you say something like that? And I was exactly, I thought about it after, I couldn't remember it. Did I think about April? But I know I thought about it later. Did I think about April before April joined? And the thought that I had was, as I was launching the Zoom, I said, I know one person said that they were going to make it, and that was April. I can count on April to be here, even though it is one day before Thanksgiving. That's the thought I had, April. So look at how beautiful this connection is, right? The same thing happened to us during group meditation. We watched this video of Eckhart's, and as I was watching, I knew there was this story about a Sufi dervish, and I knew that would have resonated the most with Lakshmi. So I turned and I said, Lakshmi, do you want to talk about the video? And she said, Poonam, I knew you were going to call me. Like, I never call her the first, like, she's never the first person I say, can you speak up? And that day, just because the dervish thing, I knew that couplet, whatever Eckhart was speaking, it would have resonated the most with Lakshmi. And that thought came and I immediately turned towards her, but she knew already, right? The inner intuition was there that I was going to pick her, select her, because those were the first words that came out. Just like how you said, April, that I think, Poonam, you were thinking about me. And I couldn't remember that I had thought about you, but then I know I had thought about you. So thank you. Thank you for that, Ken. Caesar, did you want to say something about this? And the topic, Kelly, since Kelly has joined, our one and only Qigong teacher, the topic we are talking about is, I don't know why April said last week to Patricia something about gut, listen to your gut. And we're talking about the gut health and intuition. How much does it help? Go ahead, Caesar, and then we go to Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's all about synchronicities and alignment. You know, when one person thinks of another and you call them and they pick up the phone and say, wow, I was just actually going to call you. And we practice that a lot over here. And the first words are usually, wow, again. So yeah, the gut is really important. As April mentioned, every cell has an intelligence behind it. And the big glob that makes up the body is an intelligence in itself. However, each cell, when it dies, has a memory, as she said, to come back into its perfect state. And the only way that don't happen is by bringing forth or maintaining a low vibrational frequency. That confuses the cell when it's actually being born. So when you have these feelings in the gut of sorrow or sadness or guilt or shame and everything, and it's always in the gut, that's where April hit it right on the head. I mean, I just could put a big exclamation point after everything you said, April. It was beautiful. On another note, there's a chi method that I looked into a while ago, and I'm sure Kenny can tell you about this. And it is about activating a pump, and it's also kind of known as another mind inside of the gut area. You can't see Kelly on the screen, but so this Chi Master was basically getting you to exert all your energy by blowing out all your air forward and then coming up and expanding, then going back down there. And I did this several times, and the energy that came forth, like my body was literally like electrified. It was amazing after I did this several times. And it's online. Anybody can Google it. But So, and he really touches on that second mind that's located in the gut region, that has its intelligence within it, that controls every organ in your body. To like, how does our bodies know, to regulate our body temperatures at exactly 98.7 degrees, or how many beats per minute does the heart beat? There's an intelligence there. And when them are off, the body kind of ceases to exist, or is in an altered, terrible state. Prognosis not good. So it is important to be careful what you eat and put into your body. And most of the food today is, I like to refer to it as weaponized food because of the chemicals and everything else that they put in it. It's a true story. I mean, look at the McDonald's and the fast foods that our kids are eating today, and they're on every corner. Do some research and see what kind of nutritional facts are in them hamburgers, and how much hamburger is really in the hamburger, and what else they put in it, and how they process it. It's weaponized. I can't think of a better term for it, honestly. So it is important to pay attention to your gut, and most important, it's important to pay attention to what you eat. And then the best method, as we talked about before a few segments ago, was to just pay attention to how you feel after you eat. And then your body will start to pick up on this. And so there's basically pranic food, which gives you energy, non-pranic, which depletes your energy. And then there's neutral, which takes nor gives energy. So, one of them three will be evident after you eat. And if you pay attention, if you're just mindful of it after you eat each meal, next time you go shopping, you will instinctively shy away from the foods that didn't serve you well, and you will lean into the foods that did serve you well. And that just become a habit. I don't even think about it anymore, as far as what I put into my body. And it's not always perfect, but I tend to stay away from the foods that just make me lethargic anymore. And you are definitely what you eat. Everything that you eat literally becomes you. And there's that memory again. I think Sadhguru touched on this an awful lot about eating a mango. I can eat the mango, and the mango literally will become me. Poonam, you can eat the same mango, and the mango will literally become you. How does it know? When you plant the seed has the memory. How does that mango tree know not to be an apple tree or a peach tree? It's memory. Everything, literally everything has memory. So it is very important to nurture your body and feed it good things. Pay attention to your body and how you feel afterwards, and that'll be a good start.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Caesar, for that tip.
Break for 5 minutes, but I'll be right back.
Sure. Thank you. Listen to your body as you put the food in, right? So I think even Eckhart suggests the same thing, like look at the produce, see what speaks to you, and pick that produce for that day and consume it, because your body will tell you. If you know your body deep enough, it will tell you what kind of foods it wants. Kelly, did you want to speak to this gut intuition and how important? I know you talk about emotional, your pendulum of your emotions is what shows you your progress, right? So,
well, the gut is exceptionally important for understanding ourselves. The pendulum of duality in terms of the swing of the emotions is one way that you can understand where your body is. And I just want to interrupt myself and say, hi, Eileen. Good to have you back. So in Qigong, you have 3 dantians. These are cauldrons of energy in the body. One of them, the lower dantian, is literally if you take your thumbs and make a triangle with your finger and place your thumbs on your belly button and lay your hands on your lower abdomen, that is where the lower dantian is. And the reason why this is so important, and this is what Caesar was referring to, this is literally the first brain of your body, because this is the engine that built you when you were in the womb, and you actually have more neural nodes down there than you have between your ears. And the superhighway of the nervous system, the vagus nerve, runs from the bottom of your pelvis all the way up to your brain, on the inside of your body, on the other side of your rib cage, on the inside of your rib cage, opposite your spine. And this is in Qigong, this is what's considered the central channel. So you have the front channel or the Ren channel down the front of the body, and you have the Du channel, which is the spine, which rolls up the back. When you place your tongue on the roof of the mouth and you place your hands on your lower dantian, and you can just practice breathing into the lower dantian, you will amplify and augment and refine over time your ability to be intuitive and naturally in tune with your body. And this is one of the primary things that I've practiced for a long time. It's really, really effective. And this is in Qigong, this is the most efficient way to actually learn how to listen to your body and learn how to listen to the information that you are listening to in your body. And this is, yeah, a lot of people refer to it as the second brain because we all think, oh, this one's the most important one because it was, you know, this is where our brain is and stuff like that. But in reality, the lower dantian is the engine that built you and is like the first brain of your entire body. And from the dantian, you can begin to, if you visualize the breath rising up your spine when you inhale and exhaling and dropping down back into the dantian when you exhale, you can begin to circulate the qi in your body consciously. And this is something that takes practice, but your body will also respond naturally in a very relaxed fashion if you just hold your hands on your lower dantian and place the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth. It's a very basic Qigong concept. And it forms the foundation of every other practice, every other advanced practice, and other intermediate practices. Even in the Zazen that I used to practice, the Zen Buddhist meditation, you would form a hand mudra with the thumbs interconnected and place them right in front of the lower dantian. And this helps expand the qi and build the qi in your body, in your lower dantian, so the rest of the body's nourished. And that's why when you see people practicing Zazen properly, they have their hand in that hand mudra. The gut health in terms of actually eating and purifying the body is, again, super important. To have the gut clean, some of the things that I use are apple cider vinegar. And I love my celery, celery and cauliflower, and you know, dark, rich leafy greens like broccoli and spinach and stuff like that are awesome. The way to embodiment, actual physical embodiment of spirit, is a real thing in Qigong, in Chinese Qigong, and also in some of the Western ascension methods, and also some of the First Nation practices that I've been shared. So regardless of which culture you're in, there is a method, there is a thread of information to bring us into direct contact, direct connection, direct feeling and understanding of how to be present, how to be connected to the earth, how to be connected to source, how to be connected to ourselves, and through being connected to ourselves and present with ourselves, the earth. Diet obviously is really, really important. I absolutely agree with Cesar that a lot of food out there in the industrial complex has definitely been weaponized so that our bodies get polluted, so that we have trouble believing that it's possible to feel anything other than sort of, you know, the sluggish heaviness of dense energies. And, you know, having grown up, you know, very lucky, both my parents were, you know, I guess you could call them hippies. But, you know, my dad was Mennonite and German and believed in eating healthy and clean. So did my mom. You know, it's really that simple. And I was very lucky to grow up in a household like that. So when I actually moved into the city and started having to buy food that was processed, or a lot less mindfully created and harvested, I noticed the difference right away. There are some foods where I eat, you know, I was used to having them at home, and I'd eat them and I'd have cognitive dissonance because it didn't taste the way I remembered things tasting. And I could really tell immediately as soon as I had something in my, had the processed food or the more processed food in my system, that it was not something good for me. Another point of reference that I have is understanding the problems with candida that the gut can have. Because when I was 17, I gave myself alcohol poisoning at a party and developed an extreme case of candidiasis, or overgrowth of yeast in my gut. So I had to spend quite a number of years educating myself about foods, the chemistry, the amino acids, and the enzymes, and how my gut actually works, so that I could detox my system. And again, eating healthy and clean really was the cornerstone of everything that I did. And when, a lot of people talk about brain fog or gluten intolerance or a lot of other things in terms of the gut issues that we have nowadays didn't exist, even a generation ago. And there's a reason for that. And there's a huge problem in the food chain. And again, got to go back to what Cesar said about, food being weaponized. There is a certain element of the reality of where, one portion of our reality that doesn't want us to wake up because it likes that comfortable little box that we're in. And there are many layers to, the control mechanisms, just like in our minds, just like the way our ego functions, the way our shadow functions, reptilian brain, or whatever you want to call it. When we work at being present and we work at being emotionally responsible and aware and being present with ourselves, we can begin to understand how we are beginning to walk in a different world than the world outside of us. And this is one of the things about being present, is that you learn how to feel the different vibrations of energy and what you're attracted to. Poonam, I really liked what you said about the video about Eckhart, because listening to what your body wants is again a foundation aspect of awareness, of understanding when you're present, when you're not, when you're absent-mindedly grabbing food, or when you're actually, even when you're tired and hungry, going into especially when you're hungry, going into a food store and restraining yourself from buying, I want that. It's like, don't feed the cravings. Listen to the cravings, learn from the cravings, but maintain your discipline of what you're going to buy, and learn how to listen through the hunger, through the fatigue, learn how to listen beyond what the programming wants you to believe is necessary for you in that moment, so that you get past that and use that as a learning experience. I actually spent a few years challenging myself, where at the end of the day, especially like on a Friday, end of the week, you just want to get home, go grocery shopping when I'm tired and hungry, and it's the end of the week, and my mind is, at its most challenged, because I just want to get home and have my weekend. But let's go shopping for food. Let's go shopping for food. Let's do this. And then, having, backpack full and arms full of bags, spending 15 minutes having to walk home from the grocery store, laden down with all my groceries, and I can smell them and I just want to get home and I want to have food. But to discipline myself and my mind to not freak out or not get hijacked and not start fixated on what I wanted and such things. So it's a great example, Poonam, of what Eckhart said about looking beyond and listening to what you need and why, and using that as the discipline to be aware of what your body needs. And cravings are an exceptional learning experience, because when we're craving things, it's especially salt and sugar, is because our brain is fatigued. Our brain will literally crave salt, sugar, and fat when it is trying to transition out of an old paradigm, because salt, sugar, and fat actually help the brain calm down. And studies have shown that salt and sugar and fat actually hit a whole fat, especially like cheese. Cheese literally hits the brain almost exactly the way heroin and cocaine do. So there's, a thing to be said about having cravings. And you know what? Cravings aren't a bad thing. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Cravings are a learning experience. And sometimes it's really, really important to give into those cravings and to eat those foods that you're craving, and then to listen to your body, listen to your mind, and to see how you either listened and stayed in observation and stayed present with yourself while you were experiencing your cravings and those foods, or how you're hijacked, or how you gave in, how you gave up being present in order to give into your cravings. Because cravings, especially with food, are a perfect parallel to how we feed ourselves emotionally and mentally and spiritually. And this is one of the journeys that I've had with my gut health and learning about my body and learning how to listen to my body, is that there's no bad learning experience. You're either doing something by giving up control. Everything's a learning experience. Everything's a refinement. I mean, obviously, within reason. You don't want to like just go whole hog and say, all right, give me all the Cheetos, all the Doritos. It's like, well, no, right? Everything in moderation. But, the more I listen to my body, the more I realize, like, no, I don't need those things. I've listened enough. I've challenged myself enough that, and I love food. I'm a Taurus, and I come, half my family's German, half my family's Irish, and like I grew up with like food. So food's always been an exceptional learning experience. And I've had those challenges, again, the candida, the alcohol poisoning, having to clean my body out and clean my gut out. It's why I got wise to L-glutamine and apple cider vinegar and celery and, leafy greens. And even though I grew up eating very healthy, it really hammered home how important it is to listen to the body. Okay, I'll leave my 2 cents there.
Thank you. The other part that both Caesar and you bring up about the weaponizing of food is we can think like, if I buy the General Mills cereal, or what I'm paying to is just a manufacturer, right? I'm giving to an industry which is very much into profitability, stakeholders and profitability. But if I buy like a cucumber, an organic cucumber, or an organic, whatever it may be, cauliflower, I'm giving it to a farmer who, with their hands, they put the effort, right? Nurture the soil. So there's more loving kindness and compassion in that action than giving something to General Mills or whoever, all this craft foods. So Patricia and I and Louise, quite a few of us are doing the medical medium protocol, and that eliminates, he has a list of troublemaker foods. So I bought like organic ketchup, and then I looked at the label. I didn't look at the label when we were ordering. I looked at the label, and it contains vinegar. I cannot have vinegar. So I can't even have, even if I go to organic, it's a $6 ketchup, I cannot even, leave alone the Whataburger ketchup, or leave alone the Heinz ketchup, which has cane sugar and HFCS, high fructose corn syrup and all that. We can't even have that. We can't even have organic ketchup, right? It's that degree of mindfulness. There's so much already eliminated out of our diet just to maintain the purity of what we are eating, right? So you almost need like spinach and tomatoes and celery and orange, make orange juice and like put it in a blender and just consume it. That's literally what his food is about. So I know Patricia, thank you, Kelly, Patricia. It's perfect that Kelly's here. Patricia just started doing Qigong as well, Kelly. So you want to talk about your experience and talk about any of this intuition and gut?
Yes, yes. I mean, I really started, I'm just looking because you suggested that for me with this overthinking, it would be good to go into my body and use my body as an anchor. So the thinking cannot be happening when you breathing and working with your body. So so far, I love it. I love it. As far as the discussion, I have a question. Is it possible to get to a higher vibration or to get that enlightened state if you actually have a bad diet? Because for me, it kind of happened all together from childhood. You know, my gut would always tell me what I can eat, what I can't. And then the grown-ups in my life would, it's like, no, you have to eat eggs. No, you have to have big soup, milk, porridge in the morning. And I would honestly throw up because just my body was not ready for that heavy food in the morning, which now after reading medical medium, I know that the liver needs time in the morning to clean. And if we give it very heavy, fatty foods, the liver has to stop doing its job. So all the toxin and fat stays in it and have to start trying to break the new ones. And all this reading about right now, you know, medical media and how really liver is the mother of the whole body and also directs because it protects the heart by cleaning the blood and, you know, from toxin and stuff. So yes, so I kind of, my gut came first. So I always was forced almost to listen to my gut because even during parties, when I was a teenager or young adult, everybody drank alcohol. I couldn't. I was just sipping my beer. I liked it, like a little buzz, but then I only hardly finished it. And if I was, it wasn't really forcing, sometimes peer pressure to have shots or something, you know, I would go home and was so sick and, you know, throw up. So my body said, what are you doing to me? I'm gonna punish you. So then I learned with times like I can't drink like much because I don't want to feel that sick anymore because my body didn't get abused, you know, very well. It would tell me pretty much right away. I tried to smoke a little bit socially, but like after the third cigarette, I just couldn't breathe. So I couldn't really just chain smoke like others. And even when I was in school, I remember I was the kid that after 45 minutes of instructions, when all the kids were going out for a break, I would open windows to just air everything out because I needed fresh air for my body to function. So it wasn't even as much as food, but also the air, you know, we breathe, the water we drink. It's just, so I didn't know about spiritual practice then, but you know, it kind of happened instinctively. So I was listening to my gut in a sense already. It was telling me, you know, what to do to feel better. And then, you know, unfortunately, I'm still having some symptoms because I didn't know about that Epstein-Barr virus that I have. And I was conditioned to eat eggs, dairy, you know, even though it was healthy dairy, I thought, because it was kefir, which was the plain and no sugars, no anything with good bacteria, but still it was dairy. And I like meat, you know, I'm come from Poland. They have kielbasa, I mean sausages. This country lives on sausages. So you have like 100 different kinds of sausages in every town you go to. So it was hard not to, you know, eat that. But I was always feeling, you know, bloated and heavy after. But you kind of do also what the mother cooks and where everybody eats. But then it's an experience. So it's a journey of trying to find out. So my question is it possible, again, to get that higher vibration state, reach there, enlightened, with bad diet? Or it comes together? So what comes first, maybe? Thank you.
Who wants to answer this? Kelly, you want to answer? Can you get to the bad diet real quick? Because I have a question for Eileen.
Sure. Short answer is yes. Because it's all about this and this. Even if you are eating bad food, it's harder. The body can be more sluggish. And if you have a predisposition to certain types of diet that your current diet is not agreeing with, it'll just be harder. But the short answer is yes. The years when I was married and I ate a bag of chips and a candy bar and drank a liter of pop every day, I was still making progress. I was still transmuting stuff. I was still working through things. Once you build up a certain momentum, it really doesn't matter what you eat. What you eat just either adds or subtracts to the momentum, or adds a different level of challenge. So what matters is what you are doing with your awareness above everything. 1 cent, half a cent.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you. Yeah, that was incredible. It also, for a minute, I just got that clarity that we are not our body. So when we are getting to the awareness and consciousness, then it's we get disconnected. Obviously, it's responsibility to keep it healthy because it's our vehicle
Yes.
to be here. And then I think once you get enlightened, you don't even consider getting bad food, right? Because it's almost against, no?
Enlightenment is a process. Enlightenment doesn't happen once. It never, ever, ever just happened once. It's always a journey of refinement and understanding of what you need at each and next stage of refinement. Sometimes I will have cravings and I will go and get fast food. And then I went, oh, and then the sluggishness hits me and it's just like, right. And it will parallel some of the dense energy that I'm actually trying to lift out of my body, out of my energy, and transmute. So everything happens for a reason. And yes, it is really important to eat healthy because you want to support your body. Your body is your temple of light that you want to transmute the pain body into. You want to transmute everything so that you are embodying physically that lightness of being. No pun intended, literally that lightness. So it's all about awareness. It's all about your discipline with being present. At least that's been my experience. I don't want to be speaking for anybody else, but that has been my definite experience.
Wow, you are such an amazing fountain of knowledge. One more thing, when April was talking about that each cell's moving, right? So it's that energy vibration. I heard that, the body in its optimal state is that homeostasis. Is that a certain vibration level or?
Well, we like to think of, okay, trying to put a few pieces of information back into the filing cabinets here. The homeostasis is an ideal. And it's an ideal based on three-dimensional reality of a carbon-based human body. When we transmute things, we change our body chemistry. When we change the way we think, this is why understanding how we think is so important, and why Eckhart Tolle's work is so important, because it gives such a clear, concise breakdown of how the ego works for us and against us, et cetera, et cetera. When we change the way we think, we change our body chemistry. And we are supposed to be transmuting the carbon-based life form by embodying more and more presence, by embodying more and more of ourselves and our connection to creation in our physical bodies. This is why doing meditation, having a physical discipline, having an awareness discipline of any kind is so important. So the cells, yes, the cells change. Every 100 days, the cells are actually completely renewed in our body. And even the stagnant ones will be isolated and enclosed by our body. And this is where cysts happen, or tumors, where the energy is so stagnant, the body can't break down that dense energy. And again, this is why being aware of tension in the body is so important, why being present with ourselves is so important, being mindful and understanding our presence practice, our practice with our awareness is so important. So yes, there's information exchange, like the cell walls are constantly exchanging information with other cells, just like we're like literally we've got a group of cells here right here in front of us on Zoom, and we're all exchanging information and we're all connected energetically. And this is what cells do. Every single time we interact here on Zoom, we change ourselves. And this is what we do every single time we change the way we think. And when we transmute something emotionally, we change our body chemistry. And Ken, I wanted to talk to what Ken said about how you were expressing how you're realizing how much like nature you are and how interconnected with things you are. Beautifully said, by the way, absolutely beautifully said. Wonderful, wonderful expression. And thank you for sharing that. Because energetically, we as humans are a tube torus exactly the way the planet is. Electromagnetic frequency, electromagnetic field, our chi field is literally like, think of big donut of energy, constantly doing this, constantly doing this, constantly doing this. In the middle is the central channel of the body, constantly doing this. And this is exactly what the earth does. So this is why we respond so much to nature, because nature reminds us on such a subtle subconscious level that there's this going on. And nature is balanced and it's solid and it's always present. And this is why like going for walks out in nature you're so amazing, because nature always reminds us. It always reminds us, here's this feeling, remember this feeling, remember, remember, remember. So this is one of the effects of actually being out in nature, and why nature is so beneficial to our health and helps our body heal. And this is, again, going to cell health and how the cells heal themselves. It's true. The reason why we age is because the telomeres and the mitochondria and the nucleus begin to unravel. They begin to age. They begin to like unravel like spools of wool. And the telomeres in our bodies begin to, they're what basically control the aging process in our bodies. So eating clean, supporting our body with minerals. The medical medium is brilliant in the way that he presents all of his information. And it's one of those things where when we are eating healthy, we support the balanced or the homeostasis of the body. We support the balance of the body and support the body getting into balance and being and staying in balance.
Thank you, Kelly. The question that I wanted to ask Eileen, thank you, Patricia, is since Patricia brought up her thought processes, you want to talk about your experiences, and everybody can speak on the speed at which we think, right? What was it 2 years back for you, Eileen? And I know we've discussed it quite a bit. So you want to talk about that? Thank you.
Sure. So this actually has come up quite a bit lately in many meditations that I've led. So it's been it's actually been almost 2.5 years now, but before I started on my meditation journey, I didn't think that meditation could help. That was one thing. But then when I started meditating, I didn't think I was successful because I did have like an ever active, constantly present flow of thoughts. Always thinking one thought to the next. And I didn't think that I was actually capable of meditating because obviously I didn't think I was having success, I should say it that way, with the whole meditation process, because here I was having these thoughts over and over and over again. And at that time, I actually didn't realize that that was like a human characteristic, that's just part of, what happens with us. And so it was very frustrating. And I had a meditation probably about 2 months into doing meditation, where the teacher that was leading the session talked about how, our thoughts do come rushing in. They rudely interrupt, us trying to bring awareness to our present moment and focusing on our breathing, but that is entirely normal. That's how our brains act. And it was like the first moment where I was like, wait a second, that happens to everybody? Yeah. You don't talk about that, really. And they mentioned how that practice of, it's practice after all, bringing our awareness back to the present moment, back to our breath, or back to the sensations in our body, or the sounds that are around us, whatever it is that we're using as an anchor, coming back is the actual practice. So the thoughts will come in, not resisting them, but just giving them space and bringing yourself back to your anchor. That's what meditation is, that awareness of coming back into the present moment. It's not, the resistance to the thoughts. That's just a natural part of the human experience. And it was when that happened that not only was I obviously more successful with meditation, but my progress amped it up a little bit. And like I tell a lot of my students now and clients now, that the more you do that, the more you bring your awareness back to whatever it is the anchor is that you're using, the more space you'll notice. So you'll notice that more time will pass before those thoughts come barging in. And it just gets better, and you might have a setback where they're a little bit more active, and then it'll spread itself out again. It's like this space that happens between our breaths that we don't even notice. Same thing will happen. You'll get these spaces between thoughts and they'll just spread out more and more. And that's what the whole point is, to just bring that awareness there. The only other thing I wanted to mention was that I'm sorry, I just kind of left my head because I was trying to change what I was saying, and that's why I left. See, thoughts come margin in while I'm already saying something. It's just like, nope, you can't do that. So another thing that has to do with thoughts was I used to have a severe amount of suffering while at work. And I used to, in the beginning of this journey, I would talk to Poonam and be like, I just don't get it. And I don't know if you remember this, Poonam, but like I would say week after week, I don't know what it is, but I have this issue with people not like listening to me. Do you remember that? Like my student, like I'm talking and it's like, I'm not being heard. My family doesn't hear me. My husband doesn't hear me. My students don't hear me. It's like, I have to constantly repeat myself because, I'm not being heard. And I have this issue because all of these noises and sounds are happening in my environment and they're overwhelming and they're frustrating. So I want my point to get across, but at the same time, I'm having all this, disruptions. And I had this aha moment that it really wasn't any of that. It was that all of these things were interrupting and interfering with the constant thoughts that were going through my head. And I was so frustrated and overwhelmed all the time because my mind wanted me to just be in there, going from thought to thought to thought to thought. And so if there was a noisy environment, it was interrupting. Like it was getting in the way of just being able to get, to the next thought and the next thought. Or if I'm saying what I need to say and someone's, not responding and I'm repeating, my mind's like on the next thought and I'm getting frustrated because I can't go there because I'm still here. And once I realized that it was all this constant thinking and doing and thinking and doing and thinking and doing, that's really what the issue was. And I was giving myself more time to just be and more time to just, focus on my anchor and breathe and be present. All of that stuff just disappeared. All of it. Suffering, all of it.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I think Patricia has a smile because you're kind of like explaining exactly how she is feeling, some parts of it. I think I told you when you said the other one was your coughing. I remember I said you're coughing because your throat chakra is closed and you're not able to speak your truth.
Yeah.
And then the cough disappeared. The second
Instantly.
about this, I said, when you say the other is not listening to me, that's your limiting belief. They're rising to that flaw. Are you listening to them? And you immediately said, yeah, there are times that I don't listen to them. So
No,
guess
'cause
what?
I'm listening to what's going on in here. I don't do that anymore. Not at all.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. I think it'll help everyone understand that that's the process, right? The moment we see that the thoughts are wanting, it's like a hook. The thought is taking us away. And our job is to bring our body into the present moment. That's all that is. And notice the hook, that the hook is started. So
I think Ken was raising his hand. I saw like that.
Ken, did you want to say something?
Boy, oh boy, this is incredible. I have a thought or a feeling why Eileen and I were zoned in right from the beginning. Okay. And so much of what Kelly was talking about energy, everything has energy. And maybe a year back, I would say, about this energy, it's almost as if I'm in alignment to what I need to learn. And if I'm going through something, I'm realizing that every person that comes in my energy field is no accident. It's almost as if there's a draw. So I used to have the exact same thing as what Eileen was saying. Boy, why isn't anybody listening to me? And then I realized I had this inner communication going on and I was interfering with it, with my frustration, my anger. I'm not being seen, I'm not being heard, I'm not good enough, whatever it was, with all the different subpersonalities. They were kind of getting my attention, but I didn't understand it. It was almost like, calm down, slow down. And then when I started to actually embrace and love those parts of me, I started to shift and change. So the issue that I had with other people, well, I wasn't having anymore. So then I realized that I was in my own way. So, and then this whole relationship, I realized that I was born with everything I needed. So there's a higher self inside of me that knows everything that I need to know because I was born with it. So now when I listen to other people, I'm like, you're helping me. So I'm drawn to you because you're helping me to remind myself what I already know. So it's almost like it's putting everything together. And so it's magnificent. It's almost like, holy baloney. So I can just see how the relationship with all the senses, with everything going on, it's almost like with every experience that we go through, and I heard earlier, everything happens for a reason. There's nothing that doesn't happen for a reason. And we're brought together to learn everything we need to know. So anyway, thank you very much. I wish I could express that a little bit better than I am, but I feel like my heart is really smiling and I can really, really relate to everything everybody's saying. So thank you.
We're grateful to you as well, Ken. Like, I think what I feel is just like Eileen, right? 2.5 years back, Eileen started like with a rigor and a determination. She applied herself. She's like, stay on this path. She would attend all the group meditation. We started doing Facebook Live. She would be the one that always was there on every Facebook Live, just like how y'all are doing, right? So that accelerated your path, right? No matter what. Then Ryan started his classes and his teaching. So you were able to superimpose, okay, we have one group meditation, and then we have this Ryan's teachings. She just accelerated herself. So it is all up to each one of you on how fast you accelerate. And I can see that in Patricia and yourself, Ken.
Yes, thank you.
You're like trying to like learn as much as possible, as fast as possible, so that your next step is a bigger shift. Yeah, you may be making small shifts all this time, but for the past 2-3 months, you've been making much more, like you're climbing the stairs, not like one step at a time, but you're climbing like maybe 4, sometimes 6, sometimes 10 steps at a time. So thank you. That's a great demonstration of evolution of consciousness.
Can I just ask Ken one question? Did you change your diet at all?
No, I a lot like Kelly. I feel like my family, ever since I was born, we ate really, really well. And I've known for a long time, whatever I need, I just listen. And if I go into a store, you know, if I need seafood, if I need meat, if I need vegetables, I've been like a magnet with that as long as I can remember. And the same thing with doing when he was saying about being in the woods. Well, the woods was my safe place. I was a landscape designer for my business for 43 years. So I learned so much about spirituality, but on my own, because things would come in and I realized how healthy I am and digging in the dirt, just being in that energy field of earth was actually feeding me. And so that's another thing that I'm realizing, oh my God, the dots are coming together in so many different ways. But my eating habits, and I'm not a junk food eater, and I've always ate fairly healthy. So, and anyway, thank you.
And since you bring that up, that's one of the things that needs to be balanced. Like in, is it Ayurveda or yogic sciences? They say you have to balance the earth element. So work with the earth, like either walk on the earth with barefoot, right? And your 43 years was a blessing, Ken, by itself.
Absolutely.
That you got to ground yourself over and every day. Like, look at how planetary intelligence just gave you a spiritual teacher in the fact that you had to ground yourself every day, right? No matter the insanity of the addiction, but now you're grounding yourself, right? So you brought back spiritually to that connection over and over and over again. So you had to break open, right? Because of it. So beautiful. April, did you want to talk about this, the repetitive, you know, this question came to me from our last week's conversation that you and Patricia were having back and forth.
Which part do you want me to answer? The repetitive, which part?
The constant thought activity.
Oh, gosh. I think, you know, Kelly said it probably the perfect phrase that I have come to know myself. And I think all of us come to understand this. Ken has mentioned it. It's a journey. This is a journey. This is a process. And in the beginning, it seems a little more difficult than once you learn to practice acceptance and you learn to practice that everything happens for a reason. A lot of that mental noise settles down. Because in the beginning, we just want to know why and how, and then we're not only discovering, we're not only growing, we're not only learning, but we're doing that plus fighting our old belief systems. We're fighting all those things that we thought were true and real, and then we're facing these new ideas, and we have to compare the two. So just for a simple example, oh man, I really renamed this person, Anthony Williams, medical medium. I keep renaming
You want
him.
to say Michael Medium?
Michael Medium. I have renamed him. Yeah, Michael Medium. You know, he's very firm on the whole egg theory. So we now have this egg theory, and then, oh my gosh, I ate eggs my whole life. I love them. Oh, I'm a bad person. Oh, my soul. Oh, my cells. You know, you have this conflict of this belief system, and then what is supposed to be true. So that's all the thoughts. The thoughts run through. Oh, what about this? And what about that? And oh, the more that you're on this journey, the more you practice acceptance, the more you practice presence power, the more you practice knowing that everything has a purpose. There is a reason for everything. That chatter in the mind reduces. It goes away. I don't have nearly as much chatter in my mind that I used to have before. So not only is it a spiritual practice, it is becomes part of a new personality, a new way. You just don't make so many comments. They're not important. It's not important to you anymore. But it's also biologically and chemically rewiring your body and your brain. So that's another reason why it doesn't happen so much, because now I have different networks in my brain, right? Different connections. I'm not so worried about all the little details. So that is, for me, that's how it has worked out. That's how it has ended up. It's not that I don't have thoughts, like I almost said, I don't have thoughts, but I do. I imagine Eckhart sitting there with no thoughts. Like, it kind of makes me chuckle for a second, right? But they are much less, and I don't get stuck on them. That's another thing, is the more that you're on this journey, the less you will get stuck on a thought. When you want to have or hold on to a belief, that's immediately where you're stuck. So we're going to use the egg thing for an example. If you have decided that eggs are just bad, and every time you eat them, you're contaminating the body, and every time you eat them, you're contaminating the body. You have somebody else who is 105 and eats an egg every day, right? So it's more, like Kelly was saying, and Caesar mentioned too, it is more about your belief system attached to what you're doing than what you're doing. Abraham Hicks has said you can eat all the junk in the world. It's more about your momentum and your thoughts than it is what you're eating. Have I had the best diet of my life? No. Potato chips are my best friend. I love them, right? That doesn't mean they're good for you. Does it mean that I try to stop buying them? Yes, I do. Does that mean that I try to not eat them? Yes, I most certainly do. And I've always been more of a vegetable person anyways, right? That is it. But I'm just saying, it's more about what you're thinking than what you're doing. And I'm not just, not just talking to you, but everybody out there, because I've heard that concept before. I've heard people say, you have to change your diet or you won't get spiritual. That is not true. It's not true.
Mm.
It's not true. I eat pizza all the time. I love it. I'm not going to stop eating it. I think I'm kind of spiritual, but I'm going to eat it. I'm sorry. I'm going to eat it. Okay. And I've heard people say, it doesn't matter. It does matter. You shouldn't eat a lot of garbage. I try not to eat a lot of garbage. Right. So it's more about the thoughts attached. And I am always a firm, it needs to be in the middle. There needs to be balance in life. Everything really needs to be balanced. So those are my ideas on thoughts and on food and everything.
Thank you so much, April. I agree. I agree with you. Like now, it is not that a thought. First, I don't get vested into negative thinking, right? Like a resentment. There's no resentment anymore. It's like immediate, moment to moment forgiveness. Like something happens and it's done. It's become the past, right? So nothing gets sticky. So I agree with you that we reach a certain level of consciousness where no longer our negative thoughts, like that hook is not there. And then when the hook starts, we go, oh, I see you, hook. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to think of something joyful, like meeting here on Facebook Live Q&A. Right? Thank you. Thank you, April. Caesar, do you want to say something about the repetitive thoughts? Or how do you slow down thoughts? Thank you.
The gaps in between, yeah. So, I mean, just by focusing your attention on your present moment and what's at hand doesn't require thought, that requires consciousness. So, it's to me, it's about, everything is about momentum. So, I mean, to practice the lack of thought during the course of the day, when it is necessary, when it is not necessary, when it's practical, when it's not practical, for the most part, as Tully says, the mind should be used as a tool, when needed to solve problems and such. That's when you should apply thought, I guess, and maybe when planning. But through the normal course of a day, there's really not a whole lot of thought required, at least in what I'm doing, and I'm in the construction business. So a lot of it is seemingly autopilot in a sense. Conversation requires silence, not much thought there. Because when you respond to somebody during a conversation, it's typically going to be from a place of consciousness, not thought, if you are truly listening to that person. Yes, if you are in a place of presence and you're rooted in presence while listening, fully listening to somebody, the response will not be that of a thought. It will be that of your consciousness. So it's just really all about creating the momentum, and you'll notice the gaps get longer. It is most definitely a practice. I think April summed it up pretty good. But yeah, it's a practice, and with the gaps of no thought comes a whole lot of peace in your life. And like she said, the need to be right falls by the wayside. It's no longer important. The why falls off. The why is no longer important when things happen. That's when the pictures start playing and the static, comes in, and it's just a whole lot of unnecessary, thought at that point. But when you realize how unimportant thought is during the course of a day, and when it's needed or to be applied, then you'll start realizing that the gaps in between, the awareness of that empty space prior to a thought becomes much more prevalent in your life. And then that should be the practice.
Thank you so much, Caesar. I guess, Ken, did you want to say something more about this, or you want Kelly to speak?
Kelly can speak. I'm good.
Thank you. Kelly, did you want to talk about this, the momentum of thoughts, as Caesar calls it, right?
The momentum of thoughts. The momentum of thoughts is a reflection of our attachment to our patterns and our attachment to our ego validation. And yeah, thoughts will have momentum. However, there's a difference. There's a big difference to understand that before and after you still your mind, thoughts are very different. Before you still your mind, you are working at disassembling and restraining that momentum and building discipline to be aware of how to step into observation, to observe your thoughts, and to allow that space to open up and blossom inside of you. After you begin to still your thoughts, and actually, Eileen, your experience of what you shared in terms of your experience meditating, I was just like sitting here grinning from ear to ear going, yeah, because right there, that is such a beautiful experience that you shared with us, because that in a nutshell is literally how everything goes. You have to experience those literally normal spaces of back and forth. Oh, this isn't working. Blah, 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 blah. And then it lessens, it slows down, it changes, you change, you build up more momentum of a different kind. The momentum of thoughts has to be counterbalanced by the momentum of discipline, if that makes sense. So the more you practice discipline, the more you normalize discipline with your awareness, the more you take away from the momentum of thoughts. So this is why meditation is so important. This is why a discipline, a physical discipline, mental discipline, meditation is so incredibly important, because you have to counterbalance that momentum of thoughts, that repetition, that loop, that little hamster in the wheel going. We're gonna get there, right? It's like broken, you got to get to that broken part, because that's the quintessential moment when you realize you've shifted the balance and you have more momentum with your discipline to hold your space against that momentum of thought, of your thoughts, that you then shift the balance completely. And after a while, it just never goes back. And this is where your whole thought process, your process, your mind changes, your thoughts change, your body chemistry changes. So it just, that type of momentum is what becomes normal. So this is why, I love sharing with you guys and talking about all this, because this is so important to understand. It's like, yes, thoughts have momentum. We attach so much emotional energy to them, and we get wrapped up and we get invested, and we can't let go, and we need to squirrel and go after all the shiny things and balloon or baseball, whatever. And then that discipline comes in and it changes the game completely. And again, it's just, that adage attributed to Jesus, where all you need is a faith the size of a mustard seed. And it starts with that little step of building, just building, little grains of sand. It seems like, all these little things. Oh my God, we're never going to get there. And then all of a sudden you have shifted everything and you've changed everything. And that's the beautiful, beautiful part of this, is that it will seem, and your ego will fight you on this, it will seem like you are not doing enough, like you're not getting there, like nothing is happening. And all of a sudden it does. And it changes, and you realize you feel different, and you realize you're looking at something different, and you realize, oh wait, I'm actually staying in that space a lot longer, and then become longer and longer and longer and longer until literally that momentum is changed forever. And then that new space of discipline becomes your normal reality. And that's why being present with self is so important. Why understanding that power, how powerful it really is to be present with self, is so incredibly important. And the momentum of thoughts is also an exceptional, important learning point of reference, because with feeling, letting ourselves feel and observe the momentum of thoughts, we learn how all those patterns operate. We can then disassemble them. And this is what your ego will fight kicking and screaming against, is feeling that space of actually being able to perceive that momentum and to feel it in our body. And this is why, again, we're going to go back to gut health, because literally that gut feeling when something is wrong, your gut is never wrong. Your gut is trying to tell you, because that area down there, the dantian that built you, that created all of the frequency and vibrations to bring all your molecules together and build everything, is trying to tell you to pay attention. So this is why having a practice of being aware of what you are eating, again, not that having the perfect diet is essential, because it isn't. It has to do with everything that you're doing with your awareness and how you are listening, how you are letting yourself feel. Because the more you let yourself feel that momentum of your thoughts, and then feeling that space of discipline, sitting, meditating, even going for a walk, yoga, or lifting weights, playing lacrosse, whatever it is, that physical space of connecting to your body will give you that point of reference of contrast for not being hijacked by the momentum of thoughts and being in a different space of being present with yourself. My 2 cents.
Yeah. Yes, I have a question quickly to Kelly about that gut feeling.
Yes.
Because, my gut feeling up to that recently was always scared. But that was because I had this very, thoughts of fear. So listening to my gut would stop me from acting, right? Because that was like the fear acting. But now, if I start getting the feeling in my gut, so the trusting it would be, okay, so what's the thought that caused it? Not necessarily trusting it that I'm scared, right?
Yes. Exactly. Because the feeling is your body, your gut trying to get you to pay attention. And this is where discernment and being present with ourselves and being able to not get hijacked by the fear, but to listen to what's behind it, the thoughts and the information behind it. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Your gut is telling you how much not in alignment with source you are at that moment. The fear is showing. Because if you were aligned, then there would be complete trust, and we would dwell, like have that feeling of loving, that sweet and preciousness that April and I were talking about. We would be dwelling in that sweetness and preciousness of alignment. The moment we are misaligned, then the unease, discontent, that scale that Abraham Hicks talks about, the lower half of the scale, all that will start. Like it'll start at discontent, it'll start at unease. That unease will fall into frustration. The frustration will become irritation. Irritation will become a little bit more annoyance. The annoyance will become a little bit anger. Anger will become rage, violent rage. The rage will become fear and anxiety. So we just keep feeding, and it'll keep feeding each other. Like we'll get a thought of an easy thought, and instead of feeling, hey, there's just a thought that is uneasy. Is my present moment okay? What is the nakedness of the present moment? I'm in a home. Everything is all right. But what is this unease? Why is there an unease? I'm drinking my celery juice. Why is there unease?
And is it better to pause that moment than act? Like if you have to do something, let's say drive somewhere, and all of a sudden this situation, you're getting scared, even though like that you're gonna get lost. So it's a thought, but is it okay to just keep going and just be aware of that fear? It will go away, or it's better to, let's say, stop and just breathe.
It's better to stop. It is better to stop, because the thought, the limiting belief that I'm going to get lost will make you get lost.
Yep. Yeah, it's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yep.
Thank you.
Ken is saying something. Go ahead, Ken.
It's incredible. Patricia, you are living the process one little step at a time. And all the questions that you're asking are being answered by people in the panel. So this is kind of like we're all, and this is the mirroring and the reflection of all of us, that we're all in process and we're all learning and we're all growing. And I really feel like we're all feeding one another just by our energy field, just by being here. And I know I am, because like I had mentioned to you many times, you have no idea how much you're helping me, because just you're answering so many questions. And then there's certain questions that are being asked. I'm like, oh my God, that's what I was thinking about. And then I'll hear Poonam and she'll say, I'm like, my God. So it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, because all the different sub-personalities in all of us are getting fed. They're waking up, whether some are afraid, some are whatever. So it's just amazing how all the dots or the pieces are coming together and they just kind of fit in. And it's like the right people are here to answer the questions. I'm like, that's no mistake. So I just think it's incredible. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Ken. And the other thing I would say, Patricia, like the moment Ken said something, you were trying to ask him if his diet helps him with his spiritual practice, right? The comparison is not needed. Because then you're trying to compare, is Ken at the same level? Look at the thought process in us, how it's trying to find out, am I at the same level as Ken? Or am I less than Ken? Am I at the same level as April? None of us need to, like Ken said a few weeks back, right? I don't need to be on the same level as Kelly. I don't need to be on the same level as April, because Poonam is Poonam and April is April. Whatever comes through that form is at that moment right for April. Whatever comes through this form is right for Poonam, and Poonam is going to be Poonam and April is going to be April, right? We don't need to compare with another and see where are they with their spiritual practice. What we need to do is what applies to me, what enhances my spiritual practice, right? What gives me a vibrational high is what is needed. So is it diet? We're giving so many solutions, right? We are saying, okay, try changing your diet. If you're saying you're not able to experience, I'm not meaning you, Patricia, I'm saying everybody in general. The you is the generic you. If you're not able to experience your vibrational energy, try and change your diet. The reason why I'm saying that is even in yoga, right? I'm 50 plus years of age. My body is not as limber as it used to be when I was 10. I used to do yoga when I was 8, like contort my body in all kinds of shapes. I can't do any of those asanas anymore, right? But what I'm noticing is because of the diet, because there's so much hydration, I'm getting more limber. And Kelly can speak to it. The more limber you are, there's more communication between your cells. He just said, right, the more tense your cells are, that means there's connectivity in my inner cells. The connectivity is there because I can see the limberness in my body, that I can bend more. I can, there's a lot more flexibility in my body at my age, at 50 plus years of age. I'm not 8, I'm not 6, where the body is like can do all kinds of shapes. I'm not a 1-month-old baby that can like twist and turn and nothing happens to that 1-month-old baby, right? So the diet is helping. So that's one avenue that people can look at, and how much the gut helps. The more clear your gut is, it'll give you the clear feeling that it's not fear. The fear is in the thought, but I have this connection to source. And that is where everything resides, right? the alignment with inner beingness is where the trust rises. That's where the experience of connection to source arises. That's where intuition or synchronicity arises. So at this point, I think we've been here quite a long time. So incredible. And I am like, it's an honor and a privilege week after week. You all are here. We meet again next week. Hopefully one of you has more questions. Have a fantastic day. I'm infinite gratitude that everybody's been here for so long. So many blessings. Much love to you. Have a good night. Bye. Thank you.